Well, hello, that's me again, and let me start without further ado with some very important, and I would say it's strategic, really, headline. And here it is. India is looking to strengthen its rupee-ruble arrangement to ensure seamless trade with Russia amid disruptions caused by Western sanctions following the Ukraine war. So, as you can see yourself, it seems like not really big deal over news, but reality is they are huge strategically, and that is why United States now threatening with sanctions to India. Yeah, good luck with that. And this also all creates this emotional quote-unquote background for the combined West, where you can begin to sense the real big desperation, and including the fact that, and I posted for those people who read my blog, I posted it in my blog, you can read it, that Minister of the Economy and Finance of France, the guy who 4 days ago, declared the total economic war on France, now is speaking, and this is confirmed by Figaro, Le Figaro, that, well, French companies, you know what, don't really just try to rush out of Russia, kind of stay there, kind of put it on pause a little bit, see what is going on. And let me explain, it's very simple. Germany is being beaten into utter submission with this guy Scholz who runs there, and whatever this combination of the woke Greens and Social Democrats or what have you there, they're gonna kill, they're gonna finish off their, they're gonna finish Germany, sadly. But it is what it is. Listen, nobody, and Russia, and me personally, or Russia in particular, from the point of view of the geopolitical responsibilities, are responsible for Germany, and I am on the record, am pretty trivial that people deserve the government they elect. So, this is that part of the issue, and obviously we have to remember that China is not going to impose any sanctions of Russia, and Turkey just refused to impose sanctions of Russia, and there you go. So you're looking at basically a majority of the world not imposing sanctions of Russia and continuing to work with her, and United States got what it wanted, and believe me, it's getting worse both for the United States and the combined West, and partially you can blame it for the lying sacks of shit which are known as the Western media, because this, low lives, that's the only thing they know. They love to have power and love to manipulate with the public opinions, both from the point of view of being very often the outlets for the intelligence and special operations services, and secondly, just because they are ambitious and ignorant people. I mean, come on, let's face it, did you find any smart or well-educated people in the US, British or German media? I mean, most of them are just, the conformists who do it because they love it, and they paid, obviously. Plus, some of them are probably, being blackmailed by those people who actually run the media. So here's the deal. As was expected, in terms of the, if we're gonna do this sit-rep thing, which is really, I hate this, to use it sit-rep, because neither me nor overwhelming majority of people on the earth know what actually happens on the tactical and even somewhat operational level in Ukraine, but okay, let's call it a sit-rep. And as was expected, totally. Nazi formation, supported by, obviously, West. I mean, West not only supports them, they just, encourage them. They use civilians as the human shield. Obviously, then Western media go out and lie that Russia, breaks their, humanitarian pause and things of this nature. But truth is, humanitarian corridors have been offered by Russia from pretty much any city which is now either surrounded or being enveloped, like obviously capital Kiev, Mariupol especially, and other cities. But yeah, people just don't go out of them because they're not allowed. And there are now, at least what is known, more than 5,000 foreign students and visitors to Ukraine who are being held hostage. Kharkov alone has, in accordance to Russian Ministry of Defense, 1,500 Indian students being held hostage, and there are other students, and some of them will be killed, and they will be set up, type of the white helmet bullshit for, provide the picture for gullible Western public. But you might understand how Indians, Hindu people feel about this, but it is what it is, and there is always the price to pay for that. And you know what, for knowing what was going on in Ukraine for the last 8 years, you had to be pushing the envelope if you were deciding to go and study there or live in there. So this is the situation, but yeah, you can always listen to Mr. Konashenkov, Major General Konashenkov, the spokesperson for Russian Minister of Defense, about his briefings. And although they are in Russian, I understand that you can use some kind of the closed caption, and basically Russian Minister of Defense gives pretty good picture insofar as the strategy and some operational matters are concerned, and I don't see the reason not to believe them, because they are pretty straightforward. And the latest that and especially after Vladimir Putin's speaking today to press and visitors in his meeting, is that, yeah, 95, I would say, about that percent of Ukrainian air defense has been suppressed, and I want to stress it again. The VSU, Armed Forces of Ukraine, they do not exist as a coherent force anymore. In other words, they do not have the C4 ISR complex operational with them. These are basically the random separate formations which are stuck into the or around cities and other towns and villages, because that's the only way for them to survive. And I constantly emphasize this point, but that's what people don't understand, because they're actually destroying Ukrainian military was an easy, well, relatively easy part. Now the hard part starts in terms of mopping them up. And you can see some videos on YouTube. Do not forget, and I always state, be vigilant against the bullshit, because the propaganda from Ukrainian and Western sources is unbelievable, and they lie on such a scale that unprecedented, really, which shows you that basically West is in a full-blown war against Russia. And no matter how you try to present it, and it's being led by obviously Western media, which, I mean, some of these things will require a very separate psychoanalysis, because these are not normal people who do that and who write this and present that. And that is why Russian Duma, and with the law which was signed by Vladimir Putin yesterday, in terms of the criminal responsibility, criminal charges against those who spread deliberate disinformation and fakes, is enforced right now. And guess what? Immediately, CNN, Bloomberg, all MSNBC, all the kind of the good old, parties we know since the times of Russiagate, they are out of Russia. Finally, this is the best way to deal with them. As Sergei Lavrov a few months ago, answering to the question on the press conference, I don't remember regarding what occasion, he responded to one of the CNN or Fox, I don't remember who, one of the American journalists, on his question. He replied, you know what, write whatever you want. What's the point for me to answering you and responding to you? You will distort this anyway, you will lie about it. So, and that's what it is. It's just chronic lying machine, and the only task of this machine is now to spin basically what is forming now as a catastrophic military, political, or in general geopolitical defeat of the United States and combined West, and its failure both in isolating Russia and the fact that United States may not expect this, but that's coming. Russia is going to be shutting down its exports, especially energy exports, to the combined West. This is already in play. I'm not going to be discussing it in detail right now here. We may yet get the time to discuss it, but at this stage, what has to be understood, and anybody who has a half brain in their head and IQ above room temperature, they understand that militarily it's pretty much over. It's just a matter of the mopping up operations and then settling the basically what's left of Ukrainian regime, either in or forcing it, if you wish, into capitulation and then rebuilding political systems of Ukraine, as what Vladimir Putin said, and it's pretty much not a secret anymore, is as the demilitarized, denazified entity. And here's the point. I already encountered this in the comments to my video that, oh yeah, you told that Russia doesn't need Ukraine, so you flipped. No, I didn't flip. And if you listen attentively to my last video, and in fact, if you read what I write for many years, I write about this very simply, and I responded, reiterate the point again. It is all about the context. The main task of the current Western propaganda machine is to remove the context. Or, you know, Russia said that it doesn't need Ukraine, which, by the way, Russia doesn't need Ukraine. But hey, look, they, you know, attacked Ukraine. Sure. Everybody were warning about the either false flag operation or deliberate, which did happen actually, increase of the hostilities from the Ukrainian side, and the shelling of the civilian population in LDNR reached, I mean, grotesque proportions before Russia intervened, because it was clear that not only VSU was shelling them, but it was ready to attack. And Russia was on record from the get-go. You know what? We're going to support and we're going to defend LDNR. But as usual, Russia did unexpected things. Oh, okay, LDNR, well, we'll go further. We're going to remove that cancerous growth once and for all. And that's what is happening. And operation, and I agree with Vladimir Putin in this case, not because I'm Putin fan, and, you know, but because it's just true that operation proceeds as planned. And anybody who begins to spew this bullshit about that, oh, it needs to be done immediately, right now, you know, people wake up. Nobody cares if this operation goes on for another couple of weeks, because people have to understand the scale of the operations. And right now, in accordance to the leaked documents from the even general staff of VSU, even 2 days ago, Russia was controlling LDNR, and Russian forces were controlling 40% of the Ukrainian territory. For you guys just to know what it is, and again, look it up, look at the territory of Ukraine, which is 603,000 square kilometers, and take about the 40% of this territory, which is being under Russian control now, and guess what? It's roughly 250,000 square kilometers, which is now larger than the whole territory of the United Kingdom in Northern Ireland. So this is the scale of things. And obviously, Russians try to move cautiously in terms of not damaging more of the civilian population than it is necessary, because obviously at some point of time, and it's already happening, civilians will die. They are dying, and considering the fact that they are used as the human shields, I mean, a recognizable pattern, people, you know, recall Syria, recall anywhere where basically American or British or any other advisors are involved. And obviously we have to face the fact that, yeah, no matter how those advisors and planners presented Ukraine with any kind of aid in terms of planning and execution of operations, well, guys, wrong weight category here. It's lightweights trying to fight like Mike Tyson, you know, or Evander Holyfield. So the result is pretty much known. And that's what also another thing which will be coming up very soon, that how inept and how really inadequate this NATO support and planning is for Ukraine. And yeah, it's failure. But then again, after Afghanistan, guys, what do you expect? I mean, this is the way the West fights its wars. Obviously, keeping in mind that obviously the idea on the United States part is to fight Russia to the last Ukrainian. That's just the way it goes. So these are the kind of facts which are surrounding this whole affair right now. But I wanted to touch upon other thing. Anybody who wants to understand really operational and tactical issue right now in Ukraine and what Russians do, they need to understand that Russians do not fight just merely classic operations with those prongs and attacks. It's basically one major whirlpool of the events because obviously, and I wrote books on that, just if you want to pick it up, pick up my book, The Real Revolution in Military Affairs, where I elaborate extensively on how the net centricity is being introduced on the tactical and operational level, and why this is absolutely a horrendous reality to face for any, even very large Ukrainian army, because basically you do not have classic tactical level maneuvering. How to explain it, I probably will dedicate some of my future videos to that. It has a lot to do with the graph theory, it has a lot to do with the developing of the topologies of the networks, and when suddenly you can basically move one unit or one formation, substitute it with the other while removing the formation into the place where it wasn't expected, and that completely throws the opponent or the enemy, in this particular case armed forces of Ukraine, off their balance, and they don't understand what is going on and how it is going on. And especially when you look at how the a lot of communications have been suppressed, even the recon and intel which United States is able still to provide to those formations by means of saying, oh, here's the Russian unit doing this and that, here what we think it's doing, and probably even providing some targeting for Ukraine. It really doesn't matter, because this is a completely different type of the warfare. And for now, I would say as I already stated, actually, so to speak, the systemic part is primarily over in terms of the destroying the Ukrainian military machine. And we will we'll have to comment once it happens on the urban combat, albeit there are already news that Russian and LNR forces, which by now is pretty much the same, I mean, it's just they work together, they are already within the city limits of Mariupol, and we'll see what's happening down the road. I think so Mariupol will be liberated fairly soon. I do not want, and again, I hate do this forecasting. Oh, it's going to be 3 days or 48 hours and you will see it. No, it's not going to be like this. And that's another point which we need to understand. Russia's general staff, especially GO, its main operational directorate, they do planning. But if people think that, oh, here it is, the general staff of Russia, they planned, they did contingency planning, which they did, believe me, and they have, let's say, 30 to 40 scenarios, all sealed in the envelopes. If this happens, bang, we open this envelope and act like in accordance to this or that reality or eventuality. That's true, that happens too. But it has to be understood, the planning on the level of the operational directorate happens non-stop, 24/7, and in this you can call it the contingency planning if you wish to, but it's operational planning. And that is why when some American general comes out and said Putin's plan or Russian army plan, well, dude, wake up, you don't know this plan, okay? So I don't know it, I know how it's done because I know about it better than any American general, by the virtue of my background. But the point is that the plans change constantly. and they change not only, I mean, on the tactical or operational level, they change on the strategic level too. And when Vladimir Putin says that, oh yeah, we want this denazification, we want this demilitarization, yeah, it's good. These are political aims of the war. These are political objectives by which the victory will be defined, and you already can see this victory inside. But in terms of even strategies, military strategies, where do we go? Do we go now to Odessa, or do we go now to Lvov, or what do we do next? You don't know this. Only Russian General Staff does, and fact is, today at, let's say, noon, it will be one objective. It might change, and the whole system will switch immediately, and you will have different types of the logistics and operations involved in this particular case. Different targets reassigned, different objectives, military objectives assigned for the units. That's how it works, because basically Russia has been introducing the net centricity and ability to change, play with the topology of the network, combat network, on the level of the whole Russian armed forces for many years now. And again, I write about this. You know what, the first games Russian did with the net centricity was already in the Navy in late 50s, guys, when the first SSGNs, missile-carrying submarines, and Tu-95 targeting airplanes have been unified in the simple network, two-node network, and they were able to exchange data, and the planes have been able to take the targeting and guidance of the missiles, the whole salvo, from the submarine, or otherwise just translate the picture, both optical but primarily radar picture, on the complexes, weapon systems of the submarine, of the Project 675 famous Echoes, known as the Screaming Cows, and submarine could have basically conduct the salvos beyond the horizon. So that's been already in works for a while, and of course Marshal Agarkov, you can look him up. It was the start of this work on this, so to speak, almost the, if to put it into the famous soccer, football terms, total football. And you have to remember, look up for total football. It's when the team of 11 on the, and it was created by the famous, legendary, really Dutch coach Rinus Michels, first at the level of the Amsterdam's Ajax, the club, and then obviously famous Flying Dutch national team of Netherlands, when basically everybody in the team can do anything. They can play any role, they can play any position, and this is in some sense, what is the net-centric warfare is, which is done, of course, on the incredible level of the situational and tactical awareness, which is delivered and developed by the array of sensors. And Russians have this system, net-centricity, on the tactical level long time ago. Brigades, most brigades operate with this, from the top level of the command of brigade, going down to the literally platoon. And of course, on the higher levels, which ends up in the famous Muntzuo, central control post of the Russian armed forces, of which you can look up on the in the famous TV series by Zvezda TV channel about this command post. It's called the Military Approved. So just take a look at it. I don't know, maybe they already have the holographic 3D maps there. Very well could be. We just don't know, because we can only guess about what are real capability. I know they are immense. So in this case, that's what is happening right now. And so people ask me, oh, okay, now Russia, just got Ukraine pretty much on its balance. No, Russia didn't get Ukraine on its balance. And that's what other people want me to speculate constantly. Okay, what's going to happen to Ukraine after that? It's still going to exist. It's still going to exist. It's going to exist, obviously, different form. But Russians are not taking Ukraine on its balance. Russian economy is not going to be spending much of resources on basically restoring all those, restoring what for the last 30 years they did to the country and the people. Denazification is another thing. We'll talk about it. It's the mass propaganda, and it's the issue of the reteaching, so to speak, allowing them to relearn the normal ways of living peacefully. But military infrastructure will be removed, and we know that LDNR, Donbas republics, are, for all intents and purposes, are incorporated in Russia right now, but they will be sort of, they were already recognized as the independent nations, so we'll see how much of the Ukraine will be split in terms of, for example, the land bridge which goes from the Transnistria to LDNR, which also denies the future Ukraine access to the sea, and that's what this is one of the objectives. But Kiev and Ukraine, with some of those, districts or oblasts, will remain, and let them decide, let them, elect people who at least are not flaming Nazis, and if they do it, yeah, sure, let them fix their country and whatever they did to it in the last 30 years. Russia is not responsible for restoring it. They are responsible. And as I already stated, Ukraine as a nation did happen as a political nation, and it did coalesce around some central idea which was promoted initially already in the Soviet times, that Ukraine is not Russia. Russians say, yeah, you are not Russia, please, and you will have your own state. And that's what I think will happen, and the independent, even federation of the Oblast, southern Oblast, what used to be called Malorussia and Novorossiya, will probably exist as some type of independent state, or a number of the independent states friendly to Russia, and obviously not dreaming about joining NATO, let alone placing any NATO infrastructure on their territory. And that's the whole point, So, we'll talk about this later too, because I'm honestly, it's difficult to really follow this fluid situation, but this is what I wanted to talk to you about today. And again, it is all off the cuff. I get up in the morning when I can sleep a little bit, I read news, I need to immediately come up with some kind of summary and present to you something coherent that you can understand, because some things obviously could be confusing. They are confusing not only to you, they are confusing for me too, so don't think so that I'm some kind of the seer brain, or sitting here strategizing, conceptualizing, what have you. No, I just read news, I read other sources of information, and I need to draw the picture for you, which is to the maximum related to the reality of what is going on the ground and what is going on in the world. So as usual, I would ask you, I should start doing this in the beginning of my videos, but please subscribe to my channel, and of course those of you who can afford, please support me on Patreon. I would appreciate any kind of the support, it doesn't matter, so just support me, and that will allow me to continue with developing the, so to speak, situational and tactical awareness for you guys. And I do this with a great pleasure, because I understand many people are addicted now. It's a dopamine addiction. They need to constantly see something happening, they need to see the events, they want to see and get up in the morning and say, oh, did they take this or that, did they take that city, or did they destroy this and that? Yeah, they do it all the time. Russian army right now taking the settlements, villages, towns all the time. It's non-stop, and it's a broad front offensive now. And yeah, maybe a couple of weeks, so that's be my guess, when military, it will be primarily over, and then the political process starts, including the mopping up of the remnants of the terrorists and Nazis, so we'll see. But this is the situation for now, and I just wanted you to have, so to speak, a framework for it, and think yourself, be vigilant against bullshit, and I'll talk to you later, guys. Have a nice and safe weekend. Bye bye.